Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Welcome to the show. A little later on, we're going to be chatting with Ben Haab, the president of Eaglevision Video Production. He and a crew joined the convoy heading to Ottawa and filmed a lot of it both on the way there and while they were there for a few weeks. So we'll talk about his experiences and the documentary he's hoping to make with the footage. But first, the BC throne speech and budget from the NDP government dropped in the last 2 weeks. So for his reaction, we're joined now by local MLA Dan Davies. Dan, welcome back to Moose Talks.
Hey, good morning, Doug. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, let's dive right in. I think in your most recent op-ed or a Facebook video or something, I'll be honest, I don't remember which it was, but you called this budget and throne speech more of a look back rather than going forward, which I believe you said about the previous budget and throne speech from last year. You tell us a bit in brief what you mean by that and what that means for us.
Well, really, the throne speech was a bunch of recycled promises that were made back in 2017 that they're still talking about as promises, things that they want to complete. So that was kind of the throwback, whether we're talking working on renters rebate or solving the housing crisis or the affordability crisis. I mean, how was that going? Let's be honest, things have not got better under this government, and Doug. When we look at a throne speech is really your map forward for that year. It's for that legislative session. It lays out goals. It's to provide hope for British Columbians. It's to really chart out your path, your map forward. None of that was in this. I might as well have flipped on my Google Maps. I might have actually found a location to get to because there was nothing in this throne speech. And then 2 weeks later, we just had the provincial budget. And it was pretty reflective of the throne speech. There wasn't a lot in there other than a lot of new taxes, a lot of new debt. Where British Columbia is going to be going north of $100 billion in debt. They're predicting a $5 billion deficit this year. It's just, it is unbelievable when at a time when people are looking for hope, at a time when people need hope.
All right. Well, I want to talk about the north part, which affects us directly. I think, again, in the same op-ed, you said you think the speech itself mentioned the word north twice, and not even really in the context of northern or northeastern BC. I have to ask again, given that the NDP has a majority, I think a lot of people worry that there's not much you can do kind of in opposition, but I wonder kind of what your plan is, given that the government we don't seem to be flying in their radar at all. What do you and the Liberal Party have plans to do to make sure that they recognize people in North and rural residents and make sure that they're seen to our needs too?
Well, of course, now we do have a new leader. He is not elected yet. We do expect that by this summer. So Kevin Falcon is... comes with lots of experience, former cabinet minister with us back in the day. A lot of experience, a lot of understanding the North. I mean, we got a 4-lane highway that a lot of people really appreciate that runs through Fort St. John in the area. That was Kevin Falcon that did that. So we do have a leader that understands a lot of these northern issues as well as the southern issues. And we need to start tying things together. This isn't, we talk about this rural-urban divide. We need to stop doing that. We need urban BC. Urban BC needs rural BC. We need to start working together. We need to be recognizing that oil and gas is an important part of our economy, as is agriculture, mining, and forestry. And these are the things that are going to be paying the bills. And we're not very far off, I think, from British Columbians recognizing, the inputs that we in northern British Columbia and the interior BC give to the province, because the pot's going to be drying up pretty soon, Dub. And if we don't get a hold of our economy, there's going to be no money for improving our healthcare. And we need to improve our healthcare. We need to be doing it different. It needs a lot of help. We need to be, looking at our education, post-secondary institutions. We need to be helping people, that are stuck in this a drug overdose epidemic. But we're not going to have the money if we don't also be supporting the economy. So we need to be driving that picture home. That's the picture that we are driving home as opposition in all of our bill debates to make sure that the government recognizes we can't be doing anything. We cannot tax ourselves out of what we're in, and right now, and Dub, this budget is certainly trying to tax us into affordability, and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. One of the positives, or at least it seemed like a positive, was this heat pump grant. Of course, the problem with it is that it doesn't really work for the winter, and we'd still need natural gas up here. And of course, they're raising taxes on that. I mean, again, what do you think the government's thinking here?
This is a government that's out of touch. We don't argue that heat pumps are a good thing. They are, but they're really good in the Lower Mainland and the Vancouver Island. They don't work up here. They now coming out with a new tax on, if you need to buy a furnace, or you need to look at a new hot water tank. These options that we use up here to heat our homes, that we have as a necessity. We need to heat our homes. Those are now going to have a new tax on those up to 12% more. We were just talking to to a group of farmers yesterday. They're worried that this new tax is going to be put on their grain dryers, which they use natural gas to dry their grain. Again, this is an out of touch policy that does nothing for affordability. In fact, it does quite the opposite. For the average British Columbian that lives outside of British Columbia. And, I just want to go down this path as well on affordability, Dub. We've been hearing for years that, that this government is about affordability. Yet we're up to 26 new taxes and fees since they've taken over. And ones that hit the average or low income to medium income people. Who buys used cars? That low income, medium income family buys used cars. And you know what? They are now going to be having not a new tax. The government is going to tell you how much your car is worth and how much they're going to tax you on it. So if you find a car that's $1,000, you got a really good deal on it. You normally would pay the PST on that $1,000, no more. The government is now going to say, well, you know what? That car is actually book value at $4,500. So that's what you're going to be paying the taxes on. That could be upwards of another $300 or $400 on the price of a car that you didn't have to pay before. And it's just one thing after another that they're saying they're closing loopholes. Well, no, they're just taxing people.
Well, speaking of one thing after the other, again, I mean, as far as I can tell, no money for the Taylor Bridge in this. We had Mayor Rob Fraser of Taylor on recently, and he said something interesting because, of course, there are some things on the way for the Taylor Bridge. Things seem to be kind of moving along, maybe glacially, but they are moving along. He was concerned that there would be no more money for this project if they were even planning to do it, in part because of the flooding in the south, which maybe is, something the government wasn't planning for, of course, right? What do you think of that assessment, or do you think this is just something that the government's just going to put off forever anyway?
Well, let's look at the George Massey Tunnel and the replacement of that. That there you're moving millions and millions of people, regularly. They haven't even got that project. This government cannot do big projects. We've seen that. So I share Mayor Fraser's concerns that, first of all, it will need to be replaced. It is at end of life. The engineers have said that. So it is going to need to be replaced sooner or later. But I don't think it's going to happen soon. There was no mention of anything in the budget on the Taylor Bridge. They're saying they're doing consultation. We don't need consultation. We already know what we need. We've known what we've needed for years. All the local governments up here are the same. Everybody's on the same page. We don't need consultation. So I think this consultation talk is just that. It's talk. And, as they are starting to do some of these, larger projects down south, and the Minister of Transportation said this isn't going to impact infrastructure spending, the Coquihalla fixing number one and all that. I honestly, I can't see that being the fact.
All right. This one certainly got my ire up anytime we see stuff like this, of course. This story that came out that the government was kind of buried in some things, perhaps amending an act so that cabinet ministers can get a pay raise in spite of the government running a deficit. I think I know what you think of this, but why don't you tell me anyway?
Well, hey, we're doing so good. Let's give everybody $20,000 bonuses, right? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. There was ministers were accountable to a budget, and each minister was accountable to a performance, and so there was $20,000 there before. And if you performed well and you did well on your budgeting and all that, there was up to a $20,000 bonus that you could be awarded as holding your ministry accountable. Well, now it's just a bonus. You just get it. It is basically a pay raise. They've removed the accountability, and are just giving it to them now. And again, this does speak volumes to a government that has just announced a $5 billion deficit, $120 billion debt that we're now creeping into. Affordability to the average British Columbian, as we see fuel prices skyrocket, and by the way, there's a new fuel tax coming on. Fuel prices skyrocketing. Our grocery bills are up. Taxing used cars, taxing our furnaces that we got to buy. Oh, I didn't mention this one. We now buy a lot of stuff through these different marketplaces online. Well, they're going to tax that now too, because they need to get their PST on that. So it is everything but affordability to the average British Columbian, and for them to throw a $20,000 raise on cabinet ministers is, quite frankly, despicable.
All right, we've only got a few minutes left, so I want to make sure I ask you a bit about this. Yourself, the MP, Bob Zimmer, local politicians, the mayor, for example, facing a lot of comments and concerns from citizens in regards to both sides of sort of what was happening in Ottawa over the past month with the protests and the convoy and whatnot. I wanted to give you a moment to kind of give your thoughts on the situation and sort of what your role, if any, there really is to play in what happened, given that you're a provincial MLA and it was happening in Ottawa, the seat of the federal government.
Yeah, and thanks for that. And of course, now we can look back. The Emergencies Act, I think it was I think it was about a week or so, and it has been repealed. And it was repealed because quite frankly, I don't think it was going to pass through the Senate anyways. So I think the Prime Minister was just trying to save some face before that fell flat. There's little doubt that this was a movement, and it was impactful, and I think it opened up the eyes of a lot of people. Now, moving forward, we have an unbelievable atrocity right now happening in Eastern Europe. If there's ever a time, I think that we, as Canadians, need to be focusing on what unites us, it is right now. I've been around for a few years now. I've been an elected official, going on 20 years now. I've never seen society so divided and so angry. And it saddens me. We need to start looking at ways that we can heal. We need to be starting again to focus on things that unite us, not divide us, and to move forward. We are starting to see the world open up. We are pushing as an opposition for Dr. Henry and Minister Dix to show us the evidence that keeps us where we're at. And I think every British Columbian expects to be treated the same. Like, where is the evidence that we need to continue with vaccine passports? Where's the evidence that we need to continue to be masked? We're starting to see other provinces. I think we're up to 8 provinces now that have announced a solid timeline to remove these. And I think when you combine these mandates that are happening right now with what's happening federally, I'm sitting in the parking lot here of the high school. I just presented to the poli-sci class here. And, we had this big discussion. I think our political system is being stretched to its brink right now. And it can only be repaired, I think, by us all coming together now and looking at what does unite us. And I think that is, caring for one another, making sure that, people that need the supports get the supports that they need, get people working, get our economy back on track, And, I think we do have sunnier days ahead, to be honest.
All right. Well, we'll have to leave it there for today, Dan, but I appreciate you making some time for us to talk about these things. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and Dub, just before I say goodbye as well, I do want to quickly address, mayor and council. They wrote a letter recently around, being targeted and stuff. We have our lanes that we stick into, and the mayor and council is right. They are just following provincial guidelines. I do encourage you to write, email Bonnie Henry, bonnie.henry@gov.bc.ca, or the health minister. That is where your anger and stuff needs to be directed. Please keep me in the loop on those emails as well. The city is only doing, what they are supposed to be doing in regards to following public health orders, which again, we hope are going to be lifted here very soon.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks again, Dan.
Thanks, Dub. Appreciate having me.
That's Dan Davies, the MLA. Welcome back to the program. I am Dub Craig. Now, we're going to talk a bit about Eaglevision Video Productions. They went and joined the convoy to Ottawa. They hung around and filmed, the convoy itself going there, and while they were there protesting in Ottawa over the past month or so, and got a lot of film, and as such, they want to put together a documentary about it. And so to talk a bit about that experience and what the documentary is going to happen, how it's going to happen and all that, we're joined now by Ben Hobb of Eaglevision Video Productions. Ben, welcome to Moose Talks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on here.
Thank you. And I apologize again for mispronouncing your name before just now.
It's all good.
All right. Well, why don't we start with kind of the Freedom Convoy itself. It seemed to happen very quickly, the decision to kind of, when people are saying we're going to make this happen, we're going to go protest in Ottawa. How quickly did you have to kind of make the decision that, okay, I want to film this and we're going to go and we're not sure how long we're going to be there? That must have been a bit chaotic, I suppose, to sort of make that decision, eh?
Extremely, to say the least. We literally waited until the last minute to go. We have a fair amount of commitments to our community here and a lot of projects that we were working on. And in order to catch up with the convoy, we had to drive 43 hours straight, swapping out drivers through the night. We would drive 5-6 hours, swap out to another driver, 5-6 hours, and just rinse and repeat 24 hours a day. And we caught up with them in Sault Ste. Marie, and managed to catch the convoy for the last day and a half or so. But as far as how quickly we had to make the decision, everything was snowballing with the convoy, and the information coming out was snowballing. More trucks were being added. The footage that we were seeing coming from some of the drivers we knew from Fort St. John was hard to believe. The people along the roadsides outside of Calgary and going into Winnipeg, and some of us from Eaglevision were like, this is a part of history we can't miss. This is a movement that's nationwide, regardless of its division between our citizens. It has to be covered. We have to experience it firsthand, and that's when we decided to go.
Okay. Did you have in mind then, you're like, this will be a documentary, this will be, I don't know, you sell the film to news organizations. Did you kind of have that planned out, or was it, we're going to get it on film and that the rest will come later, what we do with it kind of after?
I mean, it was a few things for sure. Documentary, no, we didn't anticipate doing that right from the get-go. That was as it was happening, and as we were capturing footage, we realized we were capturing some things that were quite special. So originally we were thinking of a 5-minute little expose on what our experience was in Ottawa, what the experience was traveling for the last couple of days with the convoy itself. Some of it was trying to give as much of a truthful experience, what we were seeing, versus what maybe some of the left or some of the right were portraying. There was extremes kind of on both sides. we were seeing reports of 50,000 trucks. That was a gross overreach, and we knew we just had to display what we were showing or what we were seeing ourselves in the best way possible, in the most unbiased way possible. And yeah, so that as we were filming those things, we gained access to. We were in the war room, where a lot of the main players were planning things. We somehow got ourselves connected into some of the main drivers, some of the main organizers. We were able to interview, Tamara, BJ Dichter, a lot of the other organizers, and we realized that we were having a lot of access to centralized figures that would allow us to create a documentary. So we then shifted from a 5-minute expose into a 15-minute documentary, and it has been snowballing from there. We had amazing support back from our community here in Fort St. John, wanting to see more material from not from the extreme right, where they basically do exactly what the left side media is doing on the right side. They wanted something a little more balanced in the view, and so this was a great opportunity for us to turn it into a full feature film. We have tremendous access to a lot of the main people that were involved with the convoy, some which are still jailed to this day. And we managed to have open conversations with them about the things that the convoy was looking for change in our federal government and on a provincial level. And we started to see that trickle down effect all throughout our provincial governments. So we were not to want to say that our hand was forced into doing a documentary, but it's with the material that we have, it's impossible not to pursue it.
I think I understand. There's so much, and you got to do something with it, right?
Yes.
I have to ask. We saw lots of from time to time from major media organizations that were covering the thing live, hits, and all that. Some members of the convoy harassing the media. Did you guys see that kind of as a documentary crew, or did you get treated differently, or did you kind of have your kind
100%.
of you got treated differently?
Yeah,
or you
we
did
definitely got treated differently.
Yeah.
No, both. And part of it was, it was a little bit of a double-edged sword. We got treated differently because we were an independent media outfit, so we were allowed access to a lot more areas where the mainstream media was not. We did see mainstream media being actively either turned away or it's a lot of COVID anxiety, right? Everybody has high emotions on all sides of the argument, and it tends to bring out some of that anxiety, and some of that fatigue from the last 2 years can bring out the worst in people. And so there was some animosity towards mainstream media for sure. And that also affected coverage too of mainstream media, not having as free access as some of the independent media had. They maybe weren't able to see some of the inner workings. But on the flip side, from what I was seeing downtown and what mainstream media had access to versus what we had access to in the grand scheme of right in front of the Parliament buildings, the reports that were coming out were vastly different. You look at any independent or even the live streams, and what you were seeing from individuals and from independent media was a completely different story than what you were seeing on some of the mainstream medias. And I'm talking both left and right. They were there was extremes on both sides that they were trying to portray. And it was a very eye-opening experience, I would say, for myself. I knew some media had a bit of a bias kind of thing. You kind of take everything with a little bit of grain of salt. And my experience with sending footage to mainstream media outlets, and then watching them use it in their news coverage when there was a story from Fort St. John, and watching the clips they specifically picked or a portion of the interview, and you kind of wonder, well, that's not exactly the point they were getting at, but how they used it portrayed a different message. And so I was seeing that firsthand, pretty prevalent, and it was a very humbling and eye-opening experience, to say the least. Yeah.
Well, we've only got about a minute left, Ben, so I want to make sure we get to this, of course, the documentary moving forward. What's next for that? I think you guys are kind of looking for some financial help with it, if I'm correct.
For sure. I mean, we've been self-funding at the very beginning for the most part, and the amount of support just started flooding in. It was a little bit overwhelming, very humbling. We're from a small town up in Fort St. John, and to have there's people from England that were watching our coverage and sending support our way, and it was phenomenal to see people wanting to see an unbiased coverage and just like craving that information that isn't filtered through. I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone is going to have a bias at with their viewpoints. I mean, that's what makes us a nation, and diversified in our decisions and diversified in our viewpoints. It's so it's hard to keep that out of film and leave it as an observational piece. But yes, we are heading back on the road today, actually at noon, and we're going to be traveling across Calgary, Winnipeg, Quebec, Ottawa, Toronto. We're going to be gone for about 3 months, grabbing additional interviews, those that are heavily for the convoy, those that are opposed, and kind of grab the, I don't want to say fallout, but like that post kind of protest results, feelings. Has this improved? Has this made things worse? Just kind of getting that now that the protests in Ottawa downtown have been severely adjusted to what they were, what does that look like now for the rest of everybody that was involved? So that's, at this point, that's kind of where we're going from here. Is we're going to do our post interviews and travel for the next 3 months, gathering other people's perspectives and views and whatnot, and then be piecing that into a documentary that we're hopefully going to be releasing around October of this year.
Wow. Okay. So you've got a lot of work to do left still, and hopefully,
a tremendous amount.
And hoping for October.
If people want to,
go ahead.
Sure.
Ben.
If people want to learn more about the documentary that we're making, they can visit our website, www.eaglevisionvideo.ca/unacceptabledoc, or follow us along on our Facebook page or YouTube.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today, and we look forward to seeing the results of all this film and footage you've got, and the documentary premiering in October.
Likewise.
All right, Ben, thanks so much for doing this.
All right, take care.
All right, that's Ben Haab with Eaglevision Video Productions.